Hello, magical people of the internet. I am Jen, and welcome to I Never Thought I Would, where we discuss doing things we never thought we would do and the fantastic places that they can lead us. I have such a wonderful guest today. She is an author and a certified coach. Her name is Kristina Rienzi. Hi, Kristina.
Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to chat with you today because you've got a few different things going on. Like you're a multi-genre writer, which is really cool. I'm multi-genre as well. Some authors like to stick to, one genre that they're comfortable with. And you and I kind of both bounce back and forth between fiction and nonfiction. So this will be super interesting to talk to you about today. But as always, we are going to start with a story. So your fiction tends to be like in the fantasy world. You have a fascinating imagination. So I'm sure that you've done, one or two things in your life that you never thought you would. And I'd love to hear about one of those stories today.
Sure. So yes, my fiction is about fear and embracing and overcoming fears. And I tend to be somebody who is afraid of a lot of things. And I decided in, I think it was 2018, while on vacation, that, you know what, I was going to try to conquer one of my fears, my fear of heights. And that I thought that that would just help me, just move forward in writing and in life. And primarily, it was really about me embracing the unknown, which I always talk about, like just walk and embrace the unknown. And this is what I write about. So yes, I ziplined in Haiti, which I never thought I would do. We were on vacation and I signed up and I said, like, that's it. And my deciding factor between, because again, I'm afraid of a lot of things and I write about what I'm afraid of, which is great. It helps me overcome. But one of my things is if I'm going to do something I'm afraid of, I have to be excited about it. So it's like something I'm excited about, but maybe a little fearful versus something that terrifies me. I never think it's a good idea to do something that terrifies you completely because I'm like, I don't want to jump out of a plane, which I would never do because that's not fun for me. But like, I thought it would be fun. And it was unbelievable. And, I was terrified. But when I got to the top, you take like these kind of Jeeps all the way up to the tippy top and zip lining. I had no idea even what really zip lining was. I've seen it, but like, I didn't really understand when you get up there and you get into the seat that you're free, you're really free. Like there's very little holding you. And that was terrifying for me. That was more terrifying for me than I think the heights piece. And what I realized was it wasn't necessarily that I'm afraid of heights, that I was able to see that I'm more afraid of like being out of control of something, which was very interesting. I it taught me something about myself. But yeah, it was amazing. It was peaceful. It was quiet. It was awesome. And most of all, I was so proud of myself for doing something I would never do. And for the reasons I did it. And I was happy I did it. I don't know if I'll do it again, but I'm so excited that I did it. And I did it over the ocean and it was beautiful. And it was worth it. It was worth definitely doing.
That sounds amazing. And I love that you used the word peaceful. You said it was so peaceful. And nobody would ever use the word peaceful to describe something that they're afraid of. But it's amazing how we can create this whole story in our head that has nothing to do with the reality of the thing we're afraid of. And this is another thing I want to ask you. When you finished, did you applaud yourself and acknowledge yourself for doing something beyond your scope? Or did you say to yourself once you were done, oh, that was no big deal?
Mm-hmm. No, I was very proud of myself. I know that I'm difficult with myself. I'm tough on myself and I try to let a lot of things go. And I internally, like, I'm not a big, jump up and down type person. That's just not my personality. Mm-hmm. But I was very internally proud. And even my husband and I talked and he's like, I'm so proud of you for doing that. I'm like, I'm really proud of myself for doing that because this is totally out of my comfort zone. It's something I'm afraid of, something that you would never think I would do, because I am not a risk taker. I am very much a rule follower, and very much like I stay in my comfort zone unless it's, well, creatively, of course, I like to push that a little bit, but that's because I'm an author and that's what I do. But in life, and so yes, going beyond your comfort zone, it absolutely teaches you a lot about yourself. It teaches you about what you're capable of, and you just learn something. And I think being self-aware is so important, because you have so much, you really do have more control over your life and your destiny when you're self-aware of what your boundaries are and what your comfort is, and what's, like I said, pushing beyond your comfort zone for the purpose of growth, or really terrifying yourself, which there's certain things I'll just probably never do, like jump out of a plane. But yes, I really was not, I don't underestimate the power of doing something that I'm afraid of. And I'm absolutely proud of myself. And I didn't think, I thought it was a big deal. Even when it was over and I was glad it was, I was kind of like, that was awesome that you did that. And now, like, don't forget that. And remember, when there's something else you want to do, like, you'll have the nerves, you'll have the anxiety, but just trust and live, you know.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I love that you acknowledged yourself, because so many of us, this is one of my issues, is I will have a fear, I will choose to conquer it, I will take it head on, and then I will say, oh, well, that wasn't such a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I totally negate the achievement of facing something head on.
It's funny, you don't know how you're going to be till you're there, and there's no right or wrong to, like, the way you handled it or the way I handled it. It's part of our personality and how we do things. And I think by you saying what was no big deal, you were in a way acknowledging that you have the power to do these things. And even though you were doing it in a different way than me saying, like, I'm so proud of myself, you know, so it was your way of acknowledging it, even though it wasn't, you know, the same way that I may have, or someone else. But yeah, that's a big deal for sure.
Yeah, but I have been trying to teach myself to acknowledge those milestones, regardless of whether or not they feel like a big deal, because fast forward, you know, rewind 10 minutes earlier, it was a big deal.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
so yeah, that was just interesting. And I love that you're able to, like, give yourself that acknowledgement and hold that space for yourself, because some of us struggle with that. So that's super inspiring. And so you said you don't think you would ever do it again. Like, what if you were in another tropical location that had a zip line and just as beautiful a view? You don't know if you do
No,
it?
you know what? I almost feel like for me, it was like I checked it off my list.
Got it.
I'm good. Like, that's kind of how I see it. And there's other things, like, I don't want to push the envelope, but there's other things I might do. But yeah, for me, it's like, okay, I checked it off my list, I'm good. And I am glad I did it. And it was like, I took advantage of the moment. And in the moment, I was very excited about it and very looking forward. But yeah, it is important to, you know, it's not even just as much about facing your fears as just proving to yourself that you can do something that you were afraid to do for whatever reason. And, you know, and you were saying, like, celebrating for me, when I write a book, I should celebrate when it's published, right? And I just move on to the next project. That's where I'm really bad. I really need to get better at saying, congratulations, you finished a book, celebrate it. But, you know, that's where I'm really bad at being happy about successes. It's really more about the stuff outside of writing. But yeah, we all kind of, we find ways to, you know, acknowledge what we've done differently. It's just, you know, we're always looking to grow and improve, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, you said when you realized when you were at the top, you know, getting harnessed in, that it wasn't really the heights that you were afraid of. It was fear of not being in control.
Yes.
And
For
isn't
sure.
it amazing how so many of our fears are not actually about the thing we think we're afraid of? It's
Totally.
about an overreaching thing that probably translates into several of our fears.
Absolutely. And that is a fear. Yes, that is an overarching, absolutely, fear that many of us have. And I think it's totally natural for everybody to have a little bit of that, whether, you know, you're driving a car, riding in a plane, like whatever, but like, that's where that comes from. It's not about the height. The height is the height. And I was okay with the height. It was like, once I get into this device, I am no longer in control of my destiny. And the crazy part is, like, you never really are. anyway in life, but we
Yes.
do trick ourselves into thinking we're in control. I think the only thing we're really in control of is our mindset about it and what
Yeah.
we choose to do and how we choose to approach it. But we're never ever in control of the outcome, even though we fool ourselves into thinking we are. And so what that was eye-opening. And I think to many, in many ways, has given me permission to do things that scare me a little bit more, because what's going to be is going to be. Like, I am
Exactly.
not in control. So I'm not, again, going to do something I'm not interested in. But if something scares me that I'm interested in, it's like, do that thing, get out of your comfort zone and see how it goes. And it's either going to be, again, an amazing experience where you feel like you've learned something, it's a little bit different, or maybe it isn't a good experience, but it's still a life experience and it teaches you something. Even the bad stuff, mostly the bad stuff teaches you things, but sometimes the good stuff teaches you things like, you don't need to worry so much, or don't be so anxious. Like, just enjoy life, just be in the moment, experience. Like, this is why we're here, you know, it's not just to work, you know, even though sometimes
Yeah.
I feel that way. It's like, we are here for the experience, for the journey, for the, you know, all of those things.
Yes. And for the joy of it.
The joy of it, for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and this year or year and a half has been a huge lesson in surrendering to the universe, because when there's a global pandemic, we realize we cannot be in control of as many things as we thought we could. So this has been like a huge reminder for me, and just a huge kind of lesson in surrender. And like you said, it all has to do with mindset. That's the only thing we can change. We can't change the pandemic. We can't change the outcome. We can't change the results. It's going to run its course. The chips are going to fall where they may. Some
Right.
people are going to get sick. Some people aren't. We're going to lose some people, unfortunately. Some people are going to get better. Like, but all we have the power to do is change our mindset and change the way we go about operating. And that brings me to, you
Mhm.
are a certified coach. And can you tell me a little bit about what the difference between a regular coach and a certified coach is? Because I know there's a lot of coaches out there now. I feel like in the past 10 years, there's been a coaching boom
Yes.
in the West. So,
Yes.
so what exactly is a certified coach, and how does that distinguish you from other coaches out there?
So yeah, I mean, and again, the term coach is a term anybody can use and will continue to use, because it's about what you're doing, right? You're helping someone go from functional to optimal performance in any way, whether it's a coach on the field or a coach, a life coach, or an executive coach, or all of those things. And so for me, I have a background in psychology. I have my master's in psychology. And so that in psychology, you're really dealing with like going from dysfunction to function. Okay, that's where you're going. And then function to optimal performance is coaching. So it's like for me, the logical next step, and especially where my mindset is at this point in my life and where I want to be focused and the things that I'm drawn to. And so, yes, you're right. Every time I turn around, I mean, I think as an author, it's like you think everybody's an author. When you're a coach, you think everybody's a coach, because you're going to see what you are and you're going to start getting involved in those worlds. So you see the word coach everywhere, and from a fitness coach to a diet, nutrition coach, and all of these people are doing what's considered coaching. They're motivating, they're helping you be accountable, they're moving you forward. And there's that the world needs more of that. And whatever, however you want to call it. I think for me, and this is me, and not to, to put anybody else down, because all coaches are needed and wanted, and absolutely, the more of them there are in the world, the better. If you're trying to help better somebody, awesome.
Yes.
But for me, it was really important for me to be credentialed, because I wanted, and this is just me, I love the legitimacy of a profession. So for me, I thought, you know what, I wasn't comfortable, and many people will disagree with me, calling myself a coach without being trained. What does a coach do? How can I help? I really wanted to help on a very deep level, not just on a surface level. And I wanted to be trained, and that was my choice. And so I went to school. I went to the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, which is IPEC. They are certified with the International Coaching Foundation, which is a world-renowned organization that recognizes and legitimizes coaches. So you get a certification. You go through training. I had over 150 hours of training. I coached one-on-one. I was coached one-on-one. I did peer coaching. I took exams. Like I had a mentor coach. My coachings were recorded. It reminded me a lot of going through counseling, psychology counseling training. Not as intense as that, but intense in its own right. So that was important for me. And so for me, having the credentials of a certified professional coach, I know I did all the work. And if I really do sit down and have a client in a one-on-one session and I go through the process, like I feel really confident and comfortable in my ability to help with their change, with their transformation, which is what coaching is about, what life is about, really, and writing too. A lot of parallels. And I'm still working on that. Even though I'm a certified professional coach, I do have clients and I get hours, and I'm going toward additional accreditations, becoming, there's different levels, because for me, I'm about learning. I'm a learner and I am a student. And if I could be in school like 24/7, I would. I love learning. So that's just for me. And again, it doesn't mean that you're not a coach if you don't have that and you call yourself a coach. If you are helping somebody better their life and change and go from functional to optimal performance in any way, you are a coach. You are a coach. And depending on the level of work you're doing, I think certified professional coaches are absolutely needed as well. Because if you're working on something that has, and many of us have issues we don't even realize are like deep rooted issues that are ingrained and from many, many years ago. And it's not necessarily traumatic, but it's something that we just have a hard time getting over. Working truly with a certified professional coach who's trained in this area by professionals and experts, I do think gives a little bit of an edge to moving you forward, maybe a little faster. It doesn't mean somebody who isn't certified can't help. There's a lot of controversy out there because, again, people will call themselves whatever they can, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I do think if you're somebody who's really, wanting somebody to work through your issues with you and you're looking for a commitment, to have somebody on your beck and call, which I have a coach and I have her every week for an hour. We talk. It is therapeutic. It is cathartic. It is unbelievable. And I know she amazes me with her skills and knowledge and information. And I prefer having somebody who's certified to help me through my major issues that I think are major. But absolutely, anyone who's willing to help, that's, being a coach, there's more of them needed in any capacity.
Yes, definitely. And I think like it was an untapped or unspoken secret, before 10 years ago. Like nobody really talked about having a coach. Like, so I was a competitive gymnast. And then when I stopped doing gymnastics, I had a coach, and then I became a gymnastics coach. But everybody would expect that children taking gymnastics classes would have a coach. And
Yes.
it's funny because in the arts, it seems like second nature, even, in terms of authors, like we have editors and we have writing groups and we share our pages and we get feedback. So why wouldn't people get that type of feedback for their business, for their company, for their, if they're going through a big life transition? Why wouldn't we use a coach? And I actually really respect the fact that you wanted to get certified, because it wasn't necessarily about how other people would see you, but it was more about how you saw yourself.
Totally. And I will point out, because you bring up a good point that I forgot to mention, but I think the one main difference, and this is more of an industry thing with certification than it is just the coaching term. The one main difference between like a coach like you're describing and a certified professional coach who's doing like these one-on-one and stuff like that. The one difference is that a coach out in the world can also be a consultant. You can give advice.
Mm-hmm.
A certified professional coach isn't giving you advice. There's zero advice. What we're doing is we are there for listening, for bringing to your attention, for acknowledging, for validating, for asking questions, for pointing out. And at the end of the day, we are not tied to, and this is again a professional accreditation thing, we are not tied to your outcome.
Mm-hmm.
If we are your coach, because we're a couples coach, for example, and there's a couple that comes to you, we are not tied to them being together. Mm-hmm. We're tied to the outcome that best serves them, even if when they first came to us, they wanted to be together, and when at the end, they decided they didn't. Because the idea of coaching for us is all about the client having the answers and us using our tools, skills, knowledge, experience to get to that place. And we have to do that. We can make suggestions. We can ask questions and say, may I make a suggestion or offer something? But it is absolutely not about advice. It's not about consultation. It's more about getting the person that you're helping to see and things they didn't see and make decisions and help support those decisions and hold them accountable. So that was a good point you made, because I forgot to mention that, because many times in coaching, like I will do, I have coached writers. And when I do the writer coaching piece, which is all about the writer, not about necessarily the story, although we may touch there, I will go into, if there's a question about writing or the industry or something, we will put a pause and say like, okay, if you have a question, like I'm pausing, we will now discuss that piece as here's my opinion or here's what I see, but it's your decision. So yeah, it's, you know what, it's all about skills and methodology. There's no right or wrong, but we need all of these people are needed. And the bottom line is, however you're doing it, whatever your method, whatever your knowledge, we need you. We need people to help people, and to move forward in life, we need help. We can't do it alone. So whoever you want to call to talk to or hire, or maybe you yourself, like you did, become a helper, we need it. Mm-hmm. So I took my path for my purposes, for me, not right or wrong, not better, not less than, just different.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. That's what's important. It's just different. And again, I did it for me, not because it was needed. It was for me to.
Is it wrong to use the word worthy?
Yeah. Well, there's a level of worth, and there's a level of, like, I knew I had been coaching people for years and years and years in my day job, and counseling stuff. But I wanted to know the difference between what I was doing and what was expected in the world from clients and from the industry. And that was just me. And it was important for me to go, oh, that comes easy to me. Oh, that's not. Let me work on that. It was really, honestly, my year of coach training was a personal development journey.
On steroids.
On steroids beyond. And I grew so much as a human that at the end of the day, if I can help somebody, awesome. If I can write a book about it, awesome, which I'm working on. But really,
which I want to talk to you
about me. Yeah, it was about me and my personal journey and becoming who I want to be. And that was really the bottom line. And the certification was icing on the cake for, credentials and work and stuff and books. But it was about me. And you just got to do things that for you.
And now getting into your books, because you have some fiction, you have quite a few fiction books that we'll get to in a minute, but you are working on a book now about happiness. And this has stemmed from your coaching experience and your coaching world. So can you tell us a little bit? This book isn't available quite yet, but this is something in the works. So can you tell us a little sneak peek about what you've got brewing?
Sure. Yes. So I was interested in happiness, not just from coaching, but I actually took another certification in happiness studies, which is well-being. I really got interested in well-being when the pandemic hit and things started going kind of south for a lot of people, including me. And so my goal with this book was really about, it's not, it isn't a case study. It's not like there's research involved, and there's scientific data and things like that, because I like to include that stuff, but it's really about I will say 5 because it is 5, and we don't know the title yet, but it started out, the working title was Be Happy Now. I don't know if that will stick, but it's about how to access happiness in the moment. It's like accessing happiness on demand. And it's really about, we're going to feel all of these different things. We're going to feel sadness. We're going to feel anger. We're going to feel frustrated. And those are all normal, natural things to feel. And we should honor that. And no one's saying you need to be happy all the time, or that you need to be jump up and down happy ever. Because I don't think and I've never been that way. My version of happiness, and for this book, is really about accessing that place inside of you where you feel peace and joy, and you feel a sense of purpose. And you're able to do that when you're in kind of a funk, you're in a bad place, you're just unable to get out of your own way. And what kinds of things can I do? What action can I take? Simple, backed by science, and data, and people who've done the research on this, and positive psychology and well-being studies, to feel good. And, it isn't retail therapy, which we all think, and believe me, I do, and I still use that. It's about things that aren't so obvious. And there are a lot of things you can do. I chose the top 5 things that resonated with me and things I thought were easy. But it's really just, I wanted it to be just kind of a handy, quick and easy read for people who want to feel good in the moment.
Okay, great. Well, this sounds so exciting, and we'll definitely have to talk to you again once this book is out, because I'm sure everybody out there in the interweb would love more information about how to choose happiness, because
sure.
it is one of the few choices that we have. We don't have control over what happens to us, but like you said, we have control over how we deal with it, how our mindset is. So this is such an exciting project, and I can't wait to hear more about it once the book comes out. And then you have a whole other world that you're involved in that has nothing to do with coaching. It has nothing to do with the happiness business. This has to do with, like we talked about earlier, facing your fears maybe a little bit, but you have so many fantasy books. You have a book series, you have another book that's a newer piece called Among Us. So can you tell us a little bit about this book and maybe what fear you were facing when you wrote this one?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I write the things that scare me. I write about things that scare me. And I'm overcoming those fears through my writing, which is kind of similar to coaching, but done in a different way. Right. So Among Us, it takes place on the Jersey Shore, which is where I live. I live by the beach in New Jersey. And it's the story of a woman who's living a double life. She is an English professor by day. She is a kind of she writes about, well, she's an alien blogger by night. I was going to say it's kind of not racy as much as it is taboo. And so her two worlds, they don't mix, they don't match. And she's very interested in what she does at night. She's interested in, what is out there, what could be. And so her neighbor happens to be, and good friend happens to be a retired Army general. And he has access to some information that is top secret, confidential from, when he was in the Army. And something happens and he chooses to share that information with her. And now she's in possession of a classified government document. And of course, there are people that don't want her to have that. And so it's kind of a cat and mouse hunt, a chase from a secret government agency after her. And she's the whole goal of this, the themes were really about truth and what people should know and shouldn't know, what's true, what's not true. But for her, it was a growth experiment and her really going on this ride and deciding, like, is this who I want to be, this buttoned up English professor, or do I really want to chase my dreams and go after my passion, no matter what anyone thinks? And I love that about the story. And that really does parallel many of us, including me, in my writing journey in life. So yeah, so I think the fear really came from literally watching shows about this kind of stuff, watching government conspiracy theories, watching Freedom of Information Act shows about what documents have been released and what they're saying. And could there be something out there in the universe that has been hidden from us? Is there something going on that we don't know about? And my belief is that we don't know everything and we never will. And I think I just approach life with the expectation that, it's a journey. There are things that we are going to know and things we're not going to know. And I'm open to the possibility that, anything is possible. And that's pretty much what the book was about.
Oh, this sounds fascinating. And I love how you use like the dual life example, because exactly, if you're an English professor and you work in the world of academia, if your colleagues find out that you're into alien government conspiracy theories, like they would consider you a quack. This, that's
Sure.
up until very recently, that was considered quackery. That was considered like it can completely delegitimize your entire career and all the work that this character had done to become a respectable part of the faculty. So,
totally.
So yeah, and I love the example because like you said, there's a duality to all of us. And for every person that seems like they're like the straightest arrow or the most buttoned up, there's something there's some undercurrent of something, whether they might play punk rock music, in their garage, or they go to goth clubs, or, you know what I mean? Nobody's all one thing all the time. And
No.
I think that's so important for us to acknowledge. And also, like you said, we're never going to know the full extent of anything. The universe we live in is so vast.
No. And
There's
to think that we should or would is naive, I think. I think it's, there are things we're never supposed to know for whatever reason that we don't know. And, I feel like we have to come to terms with that as a human being, that we are human and we are, I don't know what show I was watching, but I'm totally into all this stuff. And they talked about like how it is so true. We're limited by our own brain capacity. Like our ability to think so far is limited by what our brains can do. And so we're like trapped almost in a way of thinking beyond ourselves, because you can only do so much with what we have. And I think knowing that, acknowledging that is the first step to go beyond and say like, we just don't know. We're never gonna know. And to think I know everything because a scientific experiment was done is foolish, because you just don't. And so this is the cool part about being human: wondering, guessing, being curious. I always say question everything, ask the questions, learn, make your own decision. Whatever your reality is what it is. Like whatever you believe is the real, right? Like, and you're not going to change someone else's opinion. So like believe what you want to believe and go with that and enjoy life, enjoy the experience. That's, what this is all about.
Yeah, and it's so true, because we can only compute our surroundings within our corporeal body. We have a limited ability, within this. And I find it so fascinating that this is what your book is about, because this is like, so the whole thing about aliens really scares me. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's what scared. It was scary, and it was scary reading about it. And I'm like, I'm going to write about it, because this is what I'm interested in. Like, what would it be if I made it the reality? Like, my book is my reality, right? So that's what I did. I turned it into and I made it. It's a fast-paced thriller. It is more of a government conspiracy than anything, and I wanted it to be like, what if this happened, and how would if I were my main character, approach things. And of course we are our characters, but yeah, absolutely. I think, fiction writing is creation. We are creating something. We're creating something out of nothing, and we're creating a world that we want to explore ourselves. And we want to be able to, see like, what would it be like? And yeah, I'm open to possibilities. I know I don't know everything. And I also feel like it is important to trust your intuition and connect with beyond your physical, whatever that means for you, spiritually, or if you're religious, or whatever your means are. If it's a dream, like you said, being aware of your dreams, because the way we walk around, and the way we live our life comes a lot from who we genuinely are inside versus just our physical self. Like, who do we want to be? This is where this ties in with coaching. Every day I wake up and decide, how do I want to show up today? Who do I want to be? It's not even just as much about mindset as like, what energy do I want to put in the world? What do I want people to feel when they're around me? And it's about nothing more than just leaving some positive impact here in some way. And that is beyond just physically who we are and what we do, like what I produce. It's who I am. How can we share that?
It has been such a pleasure chatting with you today. I am so fascinated about this book, Among Us, and I can't wait to grab my own copy of it. And please tell us all where we can find you, where we can find your books. There's several of them, even though we only talked about one today. Please let us know. And of course, we'll have the links below to make it easy for everyone.
Great. No, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, my home on the web is KristinaRienzi.com, just my first name and last name.com. I do hang out on Instagram a lot more than anywhere else, but I'm also on Facebook. So come by, shoot me an email, check out my website, chat, connect. I would love to.
And the books are on Amazon, and
they're everywhere books are sold. For the most part, there's a ton of places, but yeah, Amazon. And I do have 2 audiobooks. Among Us is one of them. It's on Audible, and so is my other another book, Winter Road.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today. It's been fascinating talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
Thanks. And thank you all out there in the interweb for tuning in. I'd like to challenge you to do something you never thought you would do, or something that scares you but not terrifies you. You don't want to have PTSD from, jumping out of a plane or something. But thank you so much for tuning in. Let us know in the comments what your I Never Thought I Would is and where it leads you to. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a beautiful day.